Are you going to come with us?
Oh, I'd like to. Yes, if you'll have me.
There we are. Well, what do you think?
I don't know. Can't believe it. So big. Where are we?
Who's the TARDIS? It's my home.
I'm your new assistant.
Oh, no.
The Brigadier sent me along to introduce myself, Dr. Josephine Grant.
How do you do, Miss Grant?
I demand to see who's ever in charge of this ship.
And you want to travel with me?
Is that an invitation?
Actually, it was a question.
May I?
3 months, you say?
That's right.
All right. Why not? Welcome aboard, Perry.
Ace, where do you think you're going?
Perivo.
Ah, yes, but by which route? The direct route with glitz, or the scenic route? Well, do you fancy a quick trip round the 12 galaxies and then back to Perivale in time for tea?
Welcome back to the Nerdy Grail and welcome to a brand new ranking video here on the channel, and it's another Doctor Who ranking video inspired by the channel Josh Schneers, who I know has recently done videos on this, and he's also the inspiration that I took for my most recent series where I was ranking every episode from every Doctor's era. So a big thank you to him because he was a big inspiration for me. But this is something that I've been planning on doing for a little while, and I've never really thought about it until now. And that's, you know, the fact that obviously the Doctor is the core part of the show, but for us as fans, you know, we have to have a character to connect to in the show. And that ends up being the companion, who are basically us. And for the most part, because most of the times they're just humans who end up travelling with the Doctor. Occasionally you might get an alien or a robot here and there, or someone from the distant past or far future, but they are basically supposed to be us. You know, what would we do if we got to travel with the Doctor? And so I thought, why not do a ranking video of all the companions? However, because there's been so many companions, I decided to split this over 2 videos. So in this video, I'm going to focus on the classic series companions, from 1963 to the 1996 TV movie, because I have decided for a bit of fun to include Grace and Chang Li from the TV movie, just for a little bit of extra fun. So the whole classic era, and then in the next part, I will do then the entire modern era, from Christopher Eccleston with Rose, all the way up to characters like Ruby and Belinda Chandra from the Ncuti Gatwa era. But there's a couple of quick rules that I just want to say before I start this video. So like I said, the first rule is that it's obviously my personal opinion. So obviously this list is going to probably dramatically be different to anybody else's. So let's just remain respectful if one of your favourite companions is quite low on the list, because everyone's is different. But also this is only TV appearances, so TV companions, so I'm not including any Big Finish companions. So only ones that we have seen appear on the actual show on our TV screens as well. But yeah, so without any further ado, let's jump straight into this tier list, ranking every single classic series Doctor Who companion. Okay then, so this is my tier list ranking every classic series Doctor Who companion, from Susan Foreman all the way to Chang Li from the TV movie, because I did say for a bit of fun I would include the TV movie companions. So there's lots of companions to get through. We've got 5 different categories here: the best, great, good, meh and bad. How I'm going to be ranking these companions in particular is I'm going to be ranking them firstly based on my own personal preferences. So there's some companions that I love more than others. Their impact on the show, you know, whether they had a good character arc or not. And obviously some of these companions do return in the modern era of the show. But in this particular list, I'm only focusing on their classic series variant. When I do the modern series list, a couple of these companions might crop up again, and I'll talk about them there. So, for example, like Mel or Tegan, it's only going to be what they are like in the classic series, not what they go on to be in the modern era. But without any further ado, let's jump straight into this list ranking the companions. So firstly, we've obviously got the Doctor's granddaughter, Susan Foreman. Now look, Susan, for me, I've never really fully connected with, and I really wish they did more with her in the new series when they were teasing her for like Interstellar Song Contest and stuff. And obviously we know that they were going to do more with her, but that never ended up coming to be. Susan, for me, was a little bit whiny and a little bit annoying at times. I wasn't massively keen on her. She was good, but I think I can't put her any higher than good, because if I'm being honest, she wasn't spectacular to me. And sort of when she got written out, you know, to be with David, this person she fell in love with during Dalek Invasion of Earth, I sort of felt like, yeah, it was about her time to go. They had a good mystery of her, because obviously she was supposed to be the Doctor's granddaughter, so she had a bit of mystery. She was a bit wild and wacky. You know, she was just like a bit more of a youthful version of what the Doctor was, really, because obviously being another Time Lord. She was all right, though, don't get me wrong, but she could be annoying at times. She could think that she knew better than everyone else at times, which got a bit annoying. But overall, she was fine. She had some great moments as well, especially in her last story. And I did like her in the opening stories as well, like An Earthly Child and the Daleks and stuff, where she went out on her own in the Daleks to try and help the Dr. Ian and Barbara. You know, it was good. Speaking of Ian, Ian is the GOAT. He is one of the best companions in Doctor Who. I love Ian. I'm so glad he came back in Power of the Doctor for that last cameo. Bless you, William Russell. Rest in peace. I mean, you were a legend, and you still are a legend to this day. Fantastic Ian was. You know, this kind gentleman who was very protective. You know, he, you know, basically had his, you know, colleague and friend Barbara, who they ended up basically falling in love more or less by the end. You know, he was very protective over Susan, who was a student at the school. Didn't fully trust the Doctor at the start, but over time built up that trust. He did it in the right way, and he was perfect. He was a bit of an action hero. He was quite logical. He was really good, and I loved Ian. I thought Ian was fantastic. And I love pretty much almost every story that he's in. He's never annoying for me. I just think he's superb. Barbara as well. Now, Barbara for me is not as good as Ian, but I think Barbara is a great companion as well. She is just the female counterpart to Ian. She could have some great action as well. I think some of her best stories are when she's in the Aztecs, for example, is a fantastic story for Barbara. I think she's really funny trying to get away from is it Emperor Nero, I think, in the Romans. It's hilarious what goes on with Barbara in that story. She's really, really good, you know. She misses Susan when Susan's gone. She really adopts Vicky as sort of a new, almost like a daughter-esque character. I don't know, she's got that motherly approach to her. But yeah, and she's logical like Ian, you know, but she's a bit more sassy, you know. She does do a couple of more reckless things than Ian, but, you know, like what happens in the Aztecs. But overall, I think Barbara is a solid companion. The opening trio were fairly good and balanced really well with William Hartnell's Doctor. Vicky, for me, is a slightly better version of Susan. I prefer Vicky over Susan. My favourite William Hartnell TARDIS team is Ian, Barbara and Vicky. Love that trio. Thought they were great. You know, Barbara and Vicky didn't get off on the best foot at the start because Barbara accidentally kills Vicky's little pet and friend that she made while trapped on the planet that she was on. So they didn't get off on the right foot, but they did bond and they did get that almost like mother-daughterly relationship. I love Vicky. I think she's great. She really treats the Doctor a bit more like a mentor figure. But the Doctor seems to treat Vicky almost like a second granddaughter. You sort of get that vibe from him, obviously, after losing Susan. Ian and Vicky get on really well as well. I don't know, they're just such a solid trio, and Vicky is just great. I wish we could have had more from her. I'm gutted I couldn't meet Maureen O'Brien at the recent Comic-Con, but she pulled out last minute, which was really unfortunate. Hopefully I'll get to see her one day. Stephen Taylor, I've met Peter Purves. Stephen, for me, is a bit like Susan. He's good, but he's not superb. He does have moments where he is a bit annoying. He doesn't have the best relationship with the Doctor. In fact, he leaves the Doctor at one point and then only comes back due to he feels like he has a duty of care and he has to, and also everything that goes on with Dodo. Yeah, his relationship with the Doctor is very rocky. His relationship with all the companions as well. Like, he's not got the best relationship with Vicky, or Dodo, or, you know, most of the companions that he's with, to be honest. So, I don't know. He's good, though. He does some great stuff. And in his opening stories, like at the end of The Chase and The Time Meddler, and even in The Celestial Toymaker, I think he's done really well. I think his last appearance in The Savages was a bit weird. I didn't fully grasp the reason why he wanted to leave, or that he should have stayed. It felt a bit odd for him. It felt like I just need to get out at this point. But yeah, so Steven's a bit like that for me. He's good, but not great. Now, I did put Katerina on here because she is an official companion. For me, from what I've seen of her, I'm being a bit harsh here, but for me, she's very meh. But that's only because there's such a little we can actually see of her, because her, like, stories, really, like the Mythmakers, Dalek's Master Plan, stuff like that, don't really exist. So there's not really an awful lot to go on with Katerina. But from the little bits I've seen, I think she'd be great. And we have seen like snippets from her death. And I don't know, I feel like there's something there. I can't say that she's bad. And I don't think it'd be right for me to put her as bad because there's so little of her. So for that, she defaults into meh. And that's sort of also going to be the case with Sarah as well. Because it's unfair of me to put them in bad, even though they could debatably go in bad. I think both of them I'm going to put in meh, because there's so little of them that, you know, it's not fair for me to put them in bad. You know, but hopefully when Dalek's Master Plan and everything comes out in animation or recovered or whatever, we'll get to see a lot of these. And I feel like maybe they'll have something. This might annoy some people next... Well, it might not. Dodo, for me, is a bad companion. I'm sorry. Dodo Chaplet, I've never been able to connect with Dodo Chaplet. I mean, she doesn't even get a proper goodbye of the Doctor in the War Machines. They land, they go to the post office tower, they encounter Ben and Polly, stuff starts to go wrong. Dodo gets possessed and then just basically goes away to try and get the possession gone and never comes back and just sends a letter or a phone call to the Doctor, and Polly passes the message on, so she never gets a proper goodbye. She's annoying in all the stories that she's in. She's whiny. She thinks she knows better when 8 or 9 times out of 10 she's proven to be wrong, and it's just so annoying. I've just never got with Dodo. I'm sorry, but she never really impacted stories in a great way, if I'm honest. Polly, I like Polly. It's something about Polly. For me, Polly's great. She's not the most impactful companion. Like, quite a lot of the time, she is the damsel in distress. Like in the War Machines, where she gets possessed and has to be saved. You know, there's plenty of stories like that with Polly, where she is captured. You know, the Faceless Ones. You know, it happens a lot in her time on the TARDIS. But I like her stubbornness, her sassiness, and her strong will. I like that she is a strong female character in that. She doesn't just give in, you know. She is very screamy, though, as well. But I quite like her, especially in the War Machines. She's fantastic in the War Machines. And the 10th Planet as well. I think she's really good with Hartnell. She's great with Troughton, too. Don't get me wrong, but I think she's really good with Hartnell. Ben, for me, is meh. Ben is meh. He teeters on bad for me. I can't connect really well with Ben. Ben, for me, feels like this macho lad. You know, he's this sailor guy. You know, and he feels like he has to be in charge. He has to feel in control. He has to feel like this macho man. He can't be seen as weak. You know, he comes across as quite rude at times. I've just never really stuck with it. And I hate his nickname for Polly, calling him Duchess all the time. That really grinded my gears as well. That might just be a personal thing for me, but me and Ben, we've never really connected. He does teeter on bad for me, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Ben, sorry. Nothing against the actor or anything. Just Ben, I don't think was written perfectly. I feel like when Jamie came along, Ben had even less of a reason to be there, even though early Jamie didn't do an awful lot. Speaking of Jamie, we've got Fraser Hines, Jamie McCrimmon. Obviously, it would be silly of me to put him anywhere less than the best. I'm not just doing that because it is an obvious play. He is, let's be real. Jamie McCrimmon was a solid companion of Doctor Who, and it's one of the main reasons why the Doctor constantly references Jamie, you know, through regeneration, slips of the tongue, the Sixth Doctor in particular, remember? If you watch stories like Attack of the Cybermen, he calls Perry Jamie. If you watch The Two Doctors, you know, he even says that he was rather fond of Jamie. The Doctor loves Jamie, you know, and he is just a good companion, you know, companion from the past, doesn't understand the future, so he gets to use the Doctor as being his sort of guide, his mentor, his teacher. And the Doctor and Jamie have like the best relationship ever. They get a bit of a bromance going on. There's episodes like in Tomb of the Cybermen where they hold hands by accident. There's times where the Doctor mocks Jamie's intelligence and Jamie doesn't understand. There's times where Jamie mocks the Doctor's clownish behaviour and the Doctor doesn't even get it. I love the relationship, and he has a great bond with every companion, with Ben, with Polly, with Victoria, who he treats Victoria like almost like a girlfriend, but also as a little sister. I really get like brother-sister vibes from him and Victoria. And then with Zoe, you get that... I feel like it's a sibling rivalry again there, with Zoe being from the future, Jamie being from the past. Zoe understanding the future but not the past. Jamie understanding the past and not the future. They clash a lot, but they also get on really well. I think Jamie's just great. Victoria, I think Victoria's good. I can't say that she's terrific, because she was very damsel in distress. They sort of put her in that role, like Evil the Daleks being captured by the Daleks. Tomb of the Cybermen, she doesn't really do an awful lot. She just sort of sits at the top and waits for everyone to come back up from the action of the tombs, you know. She screams a lot, she gets captured a lot. She doesn't do a lot, she gets captured in the Ice Warriors, you know. But she is a nice, sweet companion. And yeah, I quite like Victoria, I can't deny it. Zoe for me is great. Zoe is then that step up then from Victoria. Like I said, she bounces off Troughton and Hines perfectly. They are a great trio. You know, Zoe being that character from the future, so she thinks she's more intelligent because she knows everything that's happened. She's read all the stuff that Jamie and the Doctor have gone through in textbooks, and they can't be wrong. You know, but the Doctor gets some great lines in to basically take her down a little peg. And she does learn a little bit from Jamie as well. And I think it's really, really good. She's fantastic and has some fantastic moments in the series. It's gutting that she left at the same time as Troughton and Fraser, but that was sort of an end of an era, to be honest. But yeah, I do like Zoe. She is great. The Brigadier, let's be real. Doctor Who and the Brigadier, it's like bread and butter, you know? You can't have one without the other, let's be real. Beans on toast, you know? It is just... He's the glue that holds Doctor Who together. And then in the modern era, you've got Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, who is basically the modern version of the Brigadier, being his daughter. The Brigadier is fantastic. He's met every incarnation of the Doctor, if you include Big Finish. On screen in the classic series, he's met... the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and seventh Doctors. And then technically in Dimensions in Time, he briefly met 6. But not counting that, he's only not met 6 on screen. But he is fantastic. He gets on with every incarnation. He's just a bumbling idiot soldier boy. But it's so fun watching him try to, you know, team up with the Doctor, who's very scientific and logically driven. And then the Brigadier just goes all guns blazing, you know, chat with the wings there, 5 rounds rapid. You know, I love it. He's just, you know, action before then speaking, action before thinking, you know. He does. He is just your brute that goes in, who would smash through a fence without thinking, can I pick the lock first, you know. Doesn't take subtle approaches. Love the Brigadier. Nicholas Courtney, oh my goodness, I wish I could have met you. You are, and forever will be, a legend of Doctor Who. Sergeant Benton. I think Sergeant Benton is great. He is pretty much almost as iconic as the Brigadier, but just a little bit less, you know. But I love Benton. I would love to meet John Levine. He's still around. I would love to meet him at a convention, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I can, you know, because he as well is amazing. And like the Brigadier, has met multiple Doctors, and spans generations and has influenced people. He's influenced like fan series as well that I've watched on YouTube, looking at you, Tommy Benton. But I love it. Fantastic. Great character. You know, you can't have the Brigadier without Sergeant Benton, and you can't have Benton without the Brigadier. Liz Shaw. For me, she's meh and I feel like I'm going to get a little bit of backlash for that. Yeah, nothing against the actress or anything like that, you know. Liz was an interesting character, but the problem is she was too much like the Doctor. You know, she was a scientist, but she felt like she was too intelligent, and so the Doctor and her clashed a lot. Now, I want a companion to clash with the Doctor, because they should, because human, alien, you know, they shouldn't think the same. But they never really felt like a team. They always felt like they were trying to one-up each other. And also, she spent a lot of her time away from the Doctor, and also getting captured, especially in stories like The Ambassadors of Death. But yeah, so I never really connected with Liz. She didn't really have a proper goodbye either. It was just, oh yeah, she's gone now, by the way. So it was unfortunate for Liz. So I'm not huge on her, if I'm honest. But hey, if you think Liz is great or good or whatever, then I'm glad you can. And I can see why, but just she never really connected well with me, personally. Captain Yates. Yeah, he as well, for me, is meh. I've never really connected with Yates. I thought he was a bit of a bully boy, a bit mean, especially in stories like Day of the Daleks, where he takes Sergeant Benton's food and drink, and I'm like, that's cruel, man. He's basically like saying, oh, well, the rank means that I get it above you, Benton. And then obviously he goes through a bit of an arc towards the end, where he has a bit of he gets possessed and starts going a bit crazy and frames the Doctor for crimes in Invasion of the Dinosaurs. You know, they try to do something with Yates, but yeah, I never really connected with him. He wasn't my favourite. He was my least favourite of the main unit trio of the Brigadier, Benton and Yates. Joe Grant, let's be real, you can't have three without Joe Grant. Katie Manning, who I've met at a Comic-Con, is one of the loveliest people I've ever met on this planet. She is amazing, and Jo was a star. Great art. She started as this feeble girl who would get possessed, who would make wrong decisions, and then in the last season she was in, she was a lot more independent, a lot more strong-willed. You know, she saved the day a lot more. It was great to see. You know, and I like it. And she always learned from her mistakes. And I just love Jo. I was gutted to see Jo go. I'm not a huge fan of the Green Death, but the scene at the end when obviously Jo gets married or gets proposed to, and the Doctor's at the party and whatever, and subtly leaves, and Jo sees him leave, and you can see she's upset. It breaks my heart, but I love it. I think Jo is fantastic. Sarah Jane Smith. Again, another character who, it's obvious, Sarah Jane is one of the best and is, like the Brigadier, one of the most iconic Doctor Who companions in the show's history, was the first classic companion to be brought back into the modern era, and for good reason. People love Sarah Jane Smith. She's met loads of incarnations of the Doctor. She's got her own spin-off show. You know, she is a popular character and she can do it all. She's the damsel in distress. She's the strong, independent lady who can take care of herself. You know, she's tactical. She's clumsy. She's kind-hearted. You know, she can be mean-spirited at times. She can be everything. And so I think she is like the perfect companion. Do I think she's better with Tom or John? I think she was better with Tom, but that's because she had longer with him. But she was brilliant with John as well. And in New Who, she was great with David. But we'll get on to that in when we get to the modern era, because I will put Sarah on there as well. But yeah, fantastic. And my very first story of Doctor Who was the departure of Sarah Jane Smith. So she was my first companion. And so I do have a little bit of bias there as well, because she was the one who I honed in on first. But yeah, Harry Sullivan. For me, this is a personal one now. I know people might not agree with this, and that is fine. And you totally can disagree with me on this one. This one is just a personal one. Harry, Sarah, and 4 are my favourite TARDIS team. Season 12 of the classic era is one of my favourite seasons. I love the trio. I love Harry. He was brilliant. He's a doctor. He's a strong man. They tried to bring him in because they weren't sure if they were going to have an older Doctor, and so he could do all the action hero stuff, but then they got Tom, who was able to do some of that, so he became a bit useless, and so he left after a season. But it was a fantastic season, and I love Harry. He is fantastic, and in his little short season, he's got some great moments with the Doctor, like when he's standing on a landmine. Well, the Doctor's standing on a landmine, and the Doctor says, "Harry, I'm standing on a landmine." And also, Harry Sullivan is an imbecile. I think is great. I love Harry. I wish he had stayed for longer. Leela, I think Leela for me is a good companion. I don't think she's great. Obviously, for me, she was a bit of a step down from Sarah Jane, but Louise Jameson does a really good job. I like the savage approach because then you got the polar opposite to the Doctor, taking you back to areas of like Jamie, using a companion who's not as intelligent, to go against the Doctor's super high alien intelligence, I thought was interesting. I think at times it got a bit annoying, especially since she was very fight heavy because she's a savage, so she'd carry weapons, she would be very, attack first, ask questions later, that sort of thing. So the Doctor would have to constantly basically keep her on a leash, really, so to speak. But she was fun, and she did grow as the series went on. I don't fully believe her love in Invasion of Time when she stays on Gallifrey. I thought that was a bit cheap. But overall, I quite like Leela. She's pretty good. Nothing great, but pretty good. K9. I mean, come on, it's K9. I wouldn't say he's the best, but I would definitely say K9 deserves to be in great. Because he is great. He's iconic. I've met John Leeson in real life at a convention. He is fantastic. Gotta love that robot dog, who has also gone over eras, has appeared in spin-offs, all sorts, has got his own show, which we kind of talk about but kind of choose to ignore. But he is great. He did obviously outlive his usefulness towards the end of the Tom era, so they wanted to constantly kill him off. Like, he got blown up on a beach, he got kicked, he got attacked by weeds, They did everything they could to get rid of K9, but he's an expensive prop, he's difficult, it meant that actors had to lean down, it was difficult to use him, but he was really, really good. And he's iconic. You put K9 anywhere and people will know it's from Doctor Who. A bit like the TARDIS. It is an iconic staple of the show and he is brilliant. Love K9. Romana 1. This is a personal one for me. I think Romana 1's bad. I don't like Romana 1. I also don't like Key to Time. I've made that abundantly clear on this channel. I am not a fan of Key to Time and I'm glad out of all the Tom Baker seasons, that's the one they left till last. And we got season 13 out instead first, which is a fantastic box set. It does have its issues, which I've seen people talk about, and I kind of agree, but fantastic season nonetheless. But yeah, Romana 1 has the same problem as Liz for me, is that she's another Time Lord. Well, Liz wasn't a Time Lord or Time Lady, but what I mean is that she was really intelligent. And because she was also a Time Lord like the Doctor, it meant that she felt like she was better than the Doctor, and that really got annoying. And we also meant we couldn't connect with her because she's an alien who can regenerate and this, that, and the other. You're supposed to be able to connect with a companion. You can't connect with Romana, especially Romana 1. And she spent most of her time away from the Doctor anyway in most of the stories. And she was stubborn. She was a bit arrogant. I wasn't huge on her. So this is a personal one. I could see that people might disagree that she shouldn't be that low, but this is a personal one. Romana 2, or Lala Ward's character, she's definitely a step up. I wouldn't say she's probably top of the shop, like most people might put her. But for me, I'm just going to move a couple of these a second. But yeah, Romana 2, Lala Ward is definitely better than Romana 1. They definitely ironed out a few of the kinks that Romana 1 had. She was a bit more mellowed out. She didn't think that she was always better than Doctor. She was more his equal, as opposed to thinking she was better than him. She had a better arc, and obviously she came to the realization she didn't want to go back to the life she had before, and so stayed in E-Space to try and escape the Time Lords. Romana 1 was great. Romana 2 was great. A lot better than Romana 1, in my personal opinion anyway. Adric. Ooh, now this is an interesting one. Because my fiance adores Adric. She loves Adric. And we all know how the Doctor Who fandom treats Adric. We, as a fandom, say that he is terrible. But I'm going to be a little bit fair. I don't think he's bad. I'm going to put Adric in meh. I don't think he is terrible. He definitely he's better with 4 than 5. 4 and him have a mentor relationship, whereas 5 and Adric feel more like like a brotherly relationship, but where the older brother, being the Doctor, is really annoyed at Adric's presence, and you can tell that in the stories. But yeah, he is a bit arrogant at times. He does think he is better than other people because of his badge of mathematical excellence. Just because you're good at maths and sums, my boy, doesn't mean you're great at everything. But he does have a heroic send-off in Earthshock, which I must commend. Sacrificing himself, going out like his brother does, sacrificing himself for the lives of others. So well done, Adric. Yeah, he's meh. He's okay, basically. I wouldn't say he's bad. Nyssa. Now, I like Nyssa. I would say Nyssa for me is good. Nyssa is a fairly good companion. You know, she goes for a bit of an arc, but there's an arc there that I wish they'd expanded upon more. Like, her dad is the Master. Or, sorry, her dad gets possessed by the Master, who hijacks her dad's body. And they could have really done something with that, but they chose not to, so I don't know why they did that. You know, Nyssa didn't really get to use her skills very much, you know, with medicines and this, that, and the other. She leaves in Terminus, where she gets to use her skills she learned on Traken at last, but that should have been clear all the way through her era, but it really isn't. And she also felt like a bit of a middle wheel, where, like, Tegan is like your Jamie, Adric was like your Zoe. Nyssa was sort of fluttering between the two, but not in the best way. But I did quite like Black Orchid when she got to play two roles, so, you know, it was good. I do like Nyssa, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think she's anything spectacular. Tegan. Tegan for me then is great. I like Tegan. I do think Tegan is solid, is definitely the best of that trio, the Nyssa, Tegan, Adric trio. She stays the longest. She stays from Tom Baker's final story in Legopolis, going all the way into Resurrection of the Daleks, who has a very emotional goodbye, where she's sick and tired of seeing death and destruction, and you can tell she gets fed up more as the seasons go on, especially after getting possessed by the Mara and stuff. So it's really good to see that character grow and deteriorate over time. Her enjoyment of travelling with the Doctor slowly diminishes, and you can see that happening on screen, and that's really, really good. And her relationship with companions as well, you know, like she's got a great relationship with Nyssa, an on-off one with Adric, and she grows on Turlough as time goes on. Speaking of Turlough, I think Turlough's good. Don't get me wrong, it's another companion that my fiancée loves. I wouldn't say he's anything spectacular, but I'd say Turlough is good. Interesting, he gets brought in as a companion who's meant to be... He's brought by the Black Guardian back from the dead in order to kill the Doctor. He can't bring himself to do it and ends up joining the Doctor's forces by the end when he's free of the Black Guardian's clutches. Doesn't get much of an arc, but they try to do something with him later on down the line because he is an alien. And they give him a home planet. They give him a bit of a backstory where his people were prisoners. They were invaded by the Gravis and Tractators in the story Frontios. They tried to do stuff with Turlough but they do it right at the end, whereas it would have been more interesting to build him up as time went on. But they just went, oh, we haven't got anything with Turlough and he's about to leave. Let's throw everything now in his last 2 stories. So it's, yeah. But yeah, I don't mind Turlough. He's alright. Chameleon is wasted potential. I'm putting Chameleon in bad, mainly not because of the concept of him, but because they do fuck all. Sorry about my language, but they do. They do nothing with Chameleon. You know, and they say it's because, you know, he was expensive to run, but also he was really difficult to run, and he kept breaking down, this, that, and the other. His name's Chameleon. Hire a different actor every week to play Chameleon. You don't have to use the robot. You know, so it was really annoying and such a waste. So I'm sorry. But Chameleon was bad because it was just wasted potential there. Perry. Perry is an interesting one. I quite like Perry. I do quite like Perry. I think Perry's good. She's good. She's a good companion. You know, she is your typical companion, though, of, you know, you're screaming, help me, Doctor, but asking questions, Doctor. But you feel like you are Perry, you know, because you would be in that situation. But she gets the most abuse in her era. She starts off with the passive-aggressive but really kind-hearted 5th Doctor, and then gets abused by the 6th Doctor, who goes through a traumatic regeneration. And even when 6 stabilises and is a lot more caring, she still goes through the ropes. And then everything that goes on in Trial of a Time Lord with her and Syl and losing her body and getting killed, so to speak, or did she? You know, it's all up in the air and weird. And yeah, she goes through the ropes. But I like Peri. Mel, personally, this one is going to annoy people. I know it is, especially with other companions. Yes, sue me. I like Mel. I like Melanie Bush. Not just talking about when she comes back in the modern era. I like Mel even in the classic series. Mel is my favourite part of every story that she's in. I like her. I think she's great. She's hilarious and good fun. What a scream she's got on her. Especially in Terror of the Vervoids. Her high-pitched scream starts off the end credits in one of the parts. Absolutely fantastic. Love Melanie Bush. Glad they brought her back in the modern era as well. I adore Mel. I'm not changing my mind, and no one can tell me otherwise. Ace, though, yeah, let's be real. What a companion to end the main modern era of the show on. Sophie Aldred as Ace does a fantastic job. She is solid. She is great. She goes through a fantastic arc. She takes no nonsense from the Doctor, and she's with a Doctor that is so dark and so manipulative that she does really well to hold her own against him. But she is great. I love her tomboyish nature, you know, her use of gadgets, her use of explosives, this, that and the other. She's very creative. She takes on the Daleks and Cybermen single-handedly. She is fantastic. And again, she comes back in the modern era and is still good in the modern era as well. Love Sophie Aldred. Love the character of Ace. Fantastic. She goes through the ropes as well with the Doctor manipulating her, especially in the last series. But yeah, I like Ace. Ace is definitely one of the best companions. And then just for fun, I thought I'd put the TV movie companions in here. So we got Dr. Grace Holloway, who kills the 7th Doctor. Yeah, look, okay, so Grace, for me, I think, let's be real, I think they're both about the same. I think both Grace and Lee are about meh. You know, they tried something here with the American pilot TV movie-esque thing that they were trying to do. You know, she's too... You know, like it doesn't feel like a Doctor Who companion. Obviously, it's because it's going for an American audience, but it's too Americanized, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't really know how to word it, but she doesn't feel like your typical Doctor Who companion, and she doesn't really bring a lot to the table. Sure, she technically saves the Doctor at the end, but I don't think that she truly earns it. She's okay, don't get me wrong. And Lee I put on here because he's both the Doctor's companion, but also is the Master's companion for most of the story. He teams up with the Master, and because he thinks that the Master's actually the good guy. And I quite like how manipulated he gets from the Master. I just think it's funny, if I'm honest. They're okay. They're nothing special. But that is my ranking of every classic series Doctor Who companion. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please like it by giving it a thumbs up and comment down below your thoughts on what your favourite classic series companions are, and subscribe if you are new. Now, in the next one on this little series I'm doing of ranking Doctor Who things, I will do the ranking of the modern era companions. But this is the Nerdy Grail signing off for now. I hope you've had an amazing day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now, everyone.